very lucky this afternoon to be joined by Jalmari Talola, who is the CEO of, pronunciation, hopefully it wasn't too bad, who's the CEO of Soil Scout. And you're a Finnish-based company, but it's fair to say you are making quite an impression across the world at the moment. For those people who are not particularly knowledgeable about the company, Jalmari, can you give people just an outline as to what the company is all about?
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here today. I would like to start with this story, how it all started. And because, people love stories. We love stories. We have a very interesting one. The kind of a company first steps was taking already around 20 years ago when our founder, Dr. Johannes Tiusanen, he wrote an article about how smart farming would look like in 2025. And he wrote that in 2025, the farmers, they get the underground weather report in a similar way than just about that time the web reports about weather forecast came out. So that can be described as a launching point. Right after that, Johannes started to think of, well, how would that be possible in real life, knowing that understanding what's happening underground, well, that's critical, whatever crop type you may grow. But it's at the same time, it's very hard. You don't want to have any type of obstacles or cables on your turfs, on your fields. And he was told that, well, putting any kind of a radio device underground, it's just not possible because the radio waves doesn't travel underground. But he wanted to understand why, which no one couldn't answer. And he was encouraged to start a research, and he did. And so Johannes worked with the subject for years. And what he came out was the theory that, well, the radio waves, they do travel underground, but much lower compared to open air. And the soil moisture affects the radio wave speed. The more moisture you have in your soil, the slower is the radio wave. And when it dries up, it speeds up again. And he wanted to prove this theory. And together with his good mate Jussi, they created the first field scout, which was a radio transmitter with the antenna that is capable of configuring itself based on the surrounding medium. So that whenever the soil moisture changes, it configured itself again based on that radio wave, and it's always in tune no matter what the condition is. So that's really is all what Soil Scout is about. That's the core thing we have. It's the radio transmitter and antenna.
And the data that can be collected by these sensors, initially it was predominantly aimed at the agriculture sector, but from my side of things, from the sports turf sector, you've identified that as another very potentially lucrative market for yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's basically what is our mission is all about, is to give and bring the critical data to any soil expert, no matter what industry they work at. And yeah, right after the company was founded, we started to get inquiries from golf courses, which is, by the way, it is the main difference between agriculture and turf management, that in agriculture, we always have to explain why this is important, which superintendents or groundsmen, they know immediately.
Now, I would have thought, I'm not a businessman, I'm a journalist, but the main thing when setting up a company is, one, to identify a gap in the market, two, to come up with something to be a solution to that gap in the market, and then three, to market that idea so people buy it. These three things have to be in place, and it would look very much as though Soil Scout has managed to achieve that triple hit. You've got all these three things in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So as mentioned, our starting point was kind of a very traditional, from university research to PhD and a spin-off to a company. But then I have to say that the first beginning was nothing else but easy. We were banging our heads against the wall, trying to figure out what's the sweet spot, and then testing, piloting, and well, obviously it's a hard work. Attending different events, knowing people who might introduce you another people, and then suddenly one day you're at Wembley and Philadelphia Phillies, and you started to think of, well, how did this happen?
Yeah, it's I've spoken to quite a number of people in our sector, and it's fair to say that maybe 20, 25 years ago, when the inspiration for Soil Scout emerged, people who worked in the sector were more, I always compare it to, they saw it as an art rather than a science. And now there's more people who are seeing things as a science, and you've come in and ticked those boxes for them. So would you, I think probably the market is more accepting of what you're doing now, because they're looking for the sort of information you can provide for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The whole environment has been changed over the, let's say, past 10 years, last 5 years. Today, how the soil experts, they use all the data they possibly can. That's been the most tremendous change. When looking at 10, 15 years back, it was basically, it was science. It was soil science, it was crop science, all that was there. But the data wasn't collected the same way today. Today, you have a tremendous amount of different data sources, aerial photos, thermal imagery, NDVI, soil data, all different types of crop data, combining all the data, enriching it from other data sources, analyzing it. That's been the biggest change within the past 5 to 10 years.
Now, that data, it's been in the ground for a number of years, whether it be in agriculture or whether it be in the golf courses or sports stadia. Are you in a position yet to be able to identify the level of improvement you're working with that data has meant for the end user?
Well, the main feedback obviously comes from the happy users with the different testimonials of what type of a change they've been able to do with that data. Myself, I'm not an agronomist. I have the agronomists in my team. They've been working with different data for years, but still we learn every day something new from the customers when they say that, okay, by the way, I've been able to save 17% of my fertilizers compared to last year based on this data and changing my practices, which I had for years, but now understanding how the soil affects it, I've been completely changing the whole theme, and well, you can see the difference.
And much of what you're doing, I think, it's environmentally driven, that you're actually doing what you're doing can help to preserve water, can help to preserve the planet, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been the main message. If we think of the company mission, it's to bring the critical data for the agronomists, and whatever we develop, whatever we target to, is to bring the agronomical value. But the impact comes always after knowing that the over-irrigation is a large problem, especially in dry areas, and just having a small step. First, save 10% of all the water, then 20, maybe 30% of the all water. Well, that water can be used something else, but at the same time, you produce less emissions, less water table pollution, spend less fertilizers, so the impact can be very tremendous after all.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think, it seems to me that much of the global drive for environmental protection, sustainable living, seems to come from the Nordic countries? Why do you think that is?
That is a good question. I wouldn't say it's from the Nordic countries, but seeing the environment, I'm looking outside right now. We still have the blue sky. We can drink the water from the lakes. we see the nature as it should be. And basically, I think it's that we truly understand the value of the nature, and we see what is happening elsewhere. So just putting our 50 cents, how they could have something that we do have, well, that's so important. The whole nature is so important for us.
Now, looking forward, the next few 5-year plans, let's talk about that. Where do you hope that Soil Scout will be in the short term, medium term, and long term? What are your aspirations for the company?
Last year was very, I would say, big year for us. We were partnered with Husqvarna, the Swedish very known gardening and forest equipment company. They were packing us up with an investment, which helps us to kind of renew the company, develop what we currently have, making new innovations, providing additional data sources. So in short term, it's the execution phase. It's scaling up the company. We want to see our sensors, our solution in multiple different sites within the big names we currently have, but just all the green sites, all the golf courses in the world. That's been the execution. Then on longer term, we want to see the actual results, the impact we can make. Moving maybe to the developing countries and helping them to preserve the resources and nature in more sustainable way.
Now, I know that your official title is CEO, but it's also, according to your title, was it Chief Troublemaker? Now, I love that.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think I know what you mean by that, but can you just explain what you do mean by it?
Oh yeah. Well, there's a story behind. It was in my previous work. I was part of the management group, and my nature is always questioning everything. So whatever we're planning to do, I want to look at from the different directions and question: is this the right thing? Is this the right move? And at some meeting, the CEO of the company, he told me when I was questioning some stuff again, why you're always such a troublemaker. So I think, well, that's kind of a compliment. I in that way, I like to be the troublemaker, the one who questions the decisions so that we are doing the right thing.
That's what I thought you would mean by that, and I think it's a super thing to be. Now, Jalmari, I'd just like to thank you very much for giving us a little bit of your time here on Turf Matters. Good luck for the company going forward. I think I said to you earlier that I think Turf Matters and Soil Scout are similar ages as companies, so perhaps we shall grow at a similar rate and have similar success as we go forward. So thank you very much for your time, and look forward to meeting you in person sometime soon.
Thank you, Scott. Likewise, I truly hope so. I hope that the traveling gets easier within the next coming months. I get to travel to UK as well. We do have a presence in UK. Currently 1 employee. Looking forward to expand our operations also in UK. So thank you very much. Thanks for the time and looking forward.